Hello, everybody. I am hopping on to give you a short recording just as a follow-up to the post that you may have seen this morning, as well as the session that we did on Saturday. And I this just consider this a bonus advice or a bonus session that because I there's more things that I and some of these may come into our discussion, our talk again next Saturday, but I would like to just follow up on some of you have the question of, well, how should I prioritize what to study as far as just substantively, in addition to just trying to maintain your health and wellness? And so diving in more, I wanted to help go through that, diving into as far as learning your substantive law, which is very, very important. It's the most important thing that you need to do for to be able to pass this exam. So 3 weeks into the bar now, you need to center yourself back into making sure that you are focusing on, as I mentioned before, you prioritizing your subjects. Now, I think for most of you, if not all of you, you really need to be focusing on the MBE subjects. And this probably should say MBE subjects, not just MBEs, but MBE subjects are tested on the MBEs as well as most MEEs. I hesitate a little bit because I've been doing this for 10 years, and it's always been where they have had at least three subjects that come from the MBEs for the essay portion, and most of the time it's 4 essays in the MBE subjects. They did have a administration where it was all MEEs. I think that was, I want to say February 2020, right before we went into the strange exams for the pandemic. But other than that, and then of course now they have crossovers and such. But even with all the exceptions, the carve outs, the MBE subjects are still very, very important because it's weighted heavily since it's tested in both the essay as well as the MBE. So prioritize your MBE subjects first and list them in the order of difficulty for yourself personally. So don't list property as the most difficult if you already get it, just because everybody else tends to categorize property and contracts as the most difficult subjects on the exam. It may not be so for you, and it's okay for you to put that lower. Then if you have not taken a simulated exam by now, and I know that I've worked with some people who think that it's not a good idea to do simulated exams, especially close to the exam time. And so it's a little bit of a advice that may not be consistent, because you will hear some people say don't do it and some people say do it. I think I'm of the mind that you should do it because of the fact that, well, you wouldn't want to do it like right before the exam as the only simulated exam that you're taking. But taking simulated exams throughout would be a good idea just for you to gauge how you are doing. Some of you have said on Saturday that some of you have said that you don't want to do it because then it's really scary because you don't want to see if you got it wrong and you're at the 50% mark or even at the 60% mark. Well, that's partially facing your fear. the result's going to be the result no matter what. So not knowing what that is not going to make that magically be nice on the exams. So keep that in mind. And the other thing I mentioned is, for those of you who weren't there, is to make sure that you understand what the purpose of doing practice questions is. What is the purpose of doing the practice question? And the purpose is not to see if you get the answer correct, although that's important for you to gauge your percentages. But the purpose is to help you learn additional law or help you fill gaps of where you are missing the law, such as, let's say, you didn't know there was an exception for that rule, or help you correct any misunderstandings, or if you had just been taught like wrong altogether, so it'll help you fix those things. So that's what you should be using these questions as. So to gauge and to help you get better, not to see how you are doing right now. So you don't want to be doing that as the first time you're doing it would be in the exam. If you are a repeat test taker, then you would have had already done one exam, but that really doesn't count as a simulated exam for purposes of practicing for this exam. So ideally, and we're 3 weeks out, but ideally you would want to do a simulated exam right at the beginning of your bar prep, and then in the middle do one, and then towards the end do one, so that you can hone in the last 3 weeks or even the last month or the last 2 weeks of the practice or of the preparation, for you to then hone in on areas of weaknesses that you still need to polish up. So if you haven't done one already, I would encourage you to do at least a mini simulated exam. That means 50 questions or even 25 multiple choice questions, and 3 MEEs and 1 MPT. Try to do it in a simulated setting, such as no distractions, as much as you can. Try to create that environment that you will be in on the day of the exam, as much as you can predict what that environment would be like. And so if you are doing that, then the important thing is, I'm going to skip to number 5 here. The important thing, after you do the exams and the practice too, so they go hand in hand, you need to make sure you are reviewing the results. It's not just do it and see, correct yourself, see the percentage, and then move on. You really need, this is the key here. You really, really need to review what went wrong mainly. A lot of times we just review and we think, oh, this is the rule that I need to know for this MBE question. And we focus a lot on what's the right answer. But it is more meaningful for you to understand what went wrong, why you got the answer wrong. You need to be able to articulate why your answer is wrong, so that you can correct any misunderstandings or understand the law better. So the next time that issue comes up, you can get it right because you know what they're testing on. And that's what you want to be doing 3 weeks out at this point, because you want to really try to, when you're doing these practice questions, like whether it be the simulated exam or just pulling a question or a set of questions or an MEE or an MPT to do, you want to hone in on your skill for issue spotting. And you should be doing that on all three, in all three areas, the MBEs, the MEE, and yes, the MPT, because you really should be um, identify the identifying the issues for the MPT before you get started on writing, but really get started on going through the materials. You should really be gathering the issues out of that memo as much as you can. Sometimes it's not perfect yet, but you at least know what subject you're in and probably what issue they are looking for. And you can fine tune it as you go through the materials. But it's very important to practice your issue spotting now, so you can hone in on what it is that you still need to study for, and then it will just help you be able to issue spot very quickly on the exams themselves. Then lastly, it's memorize, memorize, memorize. A lot of you don't want to hear that. And for some of you, I hesitate to give that advice because you get stressed out with thinking that you need to memorize everything. But if you can memorize the law, then you need to do it. It will help you tremendously on the exam because it'll help you be able to put down the black letter law very fast. So you can spend a lot of time fleshing out your analysis, which will get you more points. Not only that, when you are able to memorize the law well, it can be an indication that you know the law well. However, that's not always true, and that's why I'm hesitating. And part of it is that you can't, if you do it well, memorization is not just about remembering the words themselves, but the memorization helps in order for you to memorize. And you know, this really requires a separate video, but memorization, the best way, and I've said this before, the best way to remember is to put context and then have association so that you understand it, and then the words that you're committing to memories will be meaningful and you will be able to commit it to memory more easily by just repetition. But the idea is memorize, 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 because I can guarantee you, because I was one of those perfectionists, or one of those people that when I wrote down my essay, they were the perfect exact black letter law that I memorized when I put it on the essays. And you will be competing against essays like those. And you've seen some sample essays that have all those rules in there, almost perfectly matching the black letter law that you see in the commercial outlines. So that's what you will be competing against. And that's why I also say to focus on MBE subjects, because your colleagues are also focusing on MBE subjects and they have those rules memorized which means that those essays will be, the curve for those essays will be a lot higher than, let's say, the MEE subjects in the difficult areas like wills and trusts. So keep that in mind and play the numbers game. Okay, but do your best to memorize as much as you can, but really focusing on all these things here substantively as much as you can. So hopefully this bonus session will be helpful to some of you that are wondering, well, how should I prioritize as far as what should I be studying? Okay, thanks for watching. All right, thank you for watching. I'm going to stop the recording now.